Podcast New York.
What's up, Dueling Decades? This is Wax. Peace to all you guys, and thanks for having me on the show. Will it be the 90s or the 80s? Beanie Babies or Crack Babies? Will it be Nirvana or Madonna? Maybe Britney, maybe Whitney. Do you like new metal or new wave? Dave Grohl or Super Dave? I don't know. But now the battle begins. Dueling Decades. Let's see who wins.
Dueling Decades. Broadcasting from the Podcast New York studios, it's the all-new Dueling Decades, the adult-only retro game show where the decades battle for supremacy. Because it's your history, we just fight for it. I am Marc James, and this week we have for you a horrific horror-themed duel, where I will be hacking and slashing my way through 1977 alongside the other duelers and the decades they will be fighting for. First off, with the eerie picks from the 80s, say hello to Mancrush.
What's up? Welcome to another week of Dueling Decades, and that's right, I have horror from 1987. Great year, maybe.
Also joining us on the panel with all the best nightmares of the 90s, it's the incomparable Mike Ranger.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Ranger, representing horror of 1997, and it's going to be hortastic.
And as always, here on the show, we need somebody to adjudicate all of this awesomeness. So this week's guest judge is the lead vocalist from the hard and heavy horror-loving band We're Wolves. Their new single, Wasteland, is available now on all streaming platforms. All rise and welcome Judge AJ Diaferio.
Woo!
What's up?
What up,
Oh,
dude?
yeah, this is awesome.
Full face paint, too. If you're not watching the video, which will be available on YouTube, and you're listening, you're missing out.
I aim to please. I found a coin, so we're good.
Oh, that works, too.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest will be held under Dueling Decades rules. The judges' coin flip shall decide who picks first out of the 5 Dueling Decades categories: movies, television, music, news, and hot products. A judge's ruling will determine who wins each round, allowing the victor to choose the next available category. The first 3 rounds are worth 1 point each, with rounds 4 and 5 worth 2 points apiece. And in the event of a tie after all 5 rounds, we will go to a final wild card round. Remember, duelers, to review the show, listen, subscribe, and play along at home. It's time for more Dueling Decades. All right, let's go right down to our guest judge, AJ Diaferio, for the coin toss.
All right.
This
Who
week
are we
it'll be
assigning
between-
what to? Who's getting heads? Who's getting tails?
All right. this
What
week-
kind of coin do you got there?
I give a quarter.
Quarter. All right, I guess
I
I'll
went
go
into my
for.
wife's purse and I got a quarter.
All
I
right,
guess
this
I'll
week's
go
coin
with
toss-
Apparently, my wife.
He's playing at the arcade.
Yeah, you never know.
What
So
are
do we
you
assign
going?
a heads and a tails, or am I just flipping?
All right, this week the coin toss will be between Mike Ranger and Mancrush. Mike Ranger, why don't you call it in the air?
I think I'll go for a little bit of head, Mark.
All righty.
Woo! Tails it is.
Oh, all right, Mancrush. You take control of the board and get to select our first category.
All right, so let's knock this one out. Let's go October 3rd, 1987. Yeah, sometimes when you make these picks, you're met with a, do I want to win this round or do I just want to take whatever you find? And in this case, it's basically whatever I found. I mentioned this show last year when I selected a straight to syndication show called Freddy's Nightmares. And I was pretty sure, I'm pretty sure that I bashed it back then. So I can't all of a sudden make this sound any better than it actually was. That being said, I did watch the first 2 episodes of this series last night and I was bored to death. So if that's what they were trying to accomplish, then job well done. Maybe somebody likes this. I don't know. It just wasn't for me.
It is definitely not Friday the 13th, the series.
All right. So what we got here is another straight to syndication television series, banking on a famous horror name without actually including anything from that movie franchise. In the series, it was initially going to be called The 13th Hour. But since the show was ass crap, they decided to use the name, like AJ just mentioned, Friday the 13th, the series. With the sole motivation of tricking all of us into thinking that this show was about Jason Voorhees and friends. Well, here's the thing. Frank Mancuso Jr., he produced several of the Friday the 13th movies. So I guess he had the right to use the name, and he did. I don't know really if that's how it goes, but that's what happened. But the series, they tricked people for 3 seasons, ran for 72 episodes before being canceled. And I can't speak to all 72 episodes, but I gave up after the first 2. The first episode was about a possessed doll, which was kind of cool. But then it had 2 cousins that inherited this house from an uncle that they never knew. And the 2 cousins didn't know each other. And the male cousin basically is hitting on the female cousin for the first like 10 minutes. It's just like, it's very weird. And then the second episode is about a fucking evil pen. And then I tapped out. I was like, I can't do this. But yeah, Friday the 13th, the series, good call, man.
Nice. All right, Mike Ranger, what do you have for the TV round?
Well, Mark, on March 10th, 1997, on the WB network, premiered Buffy the Vampire Slayer, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar and launching her into worldwide fame. The series was based off the 1992 film of the same name. The series was created by Joss Whedon and followed main character Buffy Summers, the latest in the line of vampire hunters known as Slayers. The Slayers, as well as the Chosen, battle against demons, vampires, and other forces of darkness. The series concluded in May of 2003, giving us 7 seasons and 144 episodes, but has numerous spin-offs from TV to comics and games. Probably the biggest of those was Angel, that ran for about 5 seasons itself. And wasn't it fun 2 years later when show star Allison Hannigan taught us a new way of playing hot cross buns with a flute? Buffy the Vampire Slayer, though not a tops of the ratings at the time, still a pop culture phenomenon.
I watch that show like religiously. I watch it pretty much every time before bed. I bounce back and forth between that and the X-Files.
Yeah, X-Files is my shit.
Well, yeah, I mean,
especially the earlier ones when it was very dark. And Mark hates when I go off on tangents, but the earlier first couple seasons,
they're amazing,
fantastic. Yeah, then they started getting like odd towards the end when Mulder, like, you know, the whole contract thing, and they brought in like other people and it got weird. But
we don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's fine. It's still
we don't bring up Robert Patrick,
who just had a role in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, well, that's all right. He's only the T-1000. That's it. Nothing else. He's never been anything else. Maybe Johnny Cash's dad, but nothing else.
All right, guys. So for my television selection, we're going to go to a little review by Paul Henninger from the Gannett News Service. It says, The Spell is not an exploitation film. The first half of NBC's big event on February 20th is occupied by The Spell, a world premiere TV movie starring Lee Grant, James Olsen, Susan Myers, and Helen Hunt. A fat teenage girl with the ability to conjure up powers to inflict illness on her enemies smacks of the current wave of witchcraft movies. Not so, said executive producer Dick Berg. He admitted that it is a modern gothic in content, but that it works without gimmickry, although there is a little bit of gimmicks in the film. It's a family story, he says, that it can stand on its own. I've never been involved with one of those exploitation films before. We got into this one because we thought it was some damn good writing. Berg credited the screenplay to Brian Taggart as being full-blown. Now, Brian Taggart would go on to eventually write episodes of V and Poltergeist 3, and he claims he wrote the script from this one before he watched the movie Carrie. I'm going to throw the bullshit flag on that one. So Susan Myers makes her TV debut as the 15-year-old daughter of Lee Grant and James Olsen, that because of her obesity, she is teased in school. Because of her obesity, she is teased by school chums and even develops a hatred of her prettier younger sister, played by Helen Hunt. There are a half a dozen incidences in which Susan demonstrates her powers, and the special effects makes them very theatrical. But there's an overcoming social problem at the base under her happiness, which is solved with an old-fashioned formula to give it an up ending. That's what we all love in our made-for-TV horror movies. Nice feel-good ending, right? So that's Snowbound, February 20th, 1977 on NBC. Let's kick it down to AJ Diaferio for the ruling on the television round.
I think you guys know where I stand on this one. So, Mike Ranger, I got to give it to you, man.
Oh, thank you.
So you got the Friday the 13th. You knew it as soon as I was saying it. Were you a fan? Were you a fan of that series?
The funny thing is I vaguely remember watching it as like a little kid, like at my grandma's house, whenever my parents would like drop me off in the city. And I have fond memories. I remember like it took place in, I want to say like a train station. Is that right? Or a subway?
I think they're all different. I think all the episodes are independent.
No, but I mean like the main place where they were like.
Oh, you got me.
I mean, they're all. Let's face facts. They're all basically Are You Afraid of the Dark, where they have like a main location and they tell a fucking story. Yeah, it's like that. But yeah, I never had the inclining to like go back in and actually like rewatch it. But I remember it scared me as a kid. So
yeah, I get there's parts like the doll. Like I said before, that one was okay, but then it just it fizzled. But the other one was still like a pen. Like we're 60 minutes talking. Like,
I feel like you need to power through it. You need to commit and go through all of them.
Well, plus you can't find if it was in HD. That's the other thing. Maybe I would have been more into it. But I found some. If you go to YouTube, most of them are up there. It's hard to find. You got to buy it on DVD. Nobody's got it streaming. So if you really want to put yourself,
is it just like a random person that like posted all of them that like converted them from VHS?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there was a playlist. And there was a lot of them
who actually like went home,
ripped them all,
made sure to videotape all of them. One day went through his garage, found a box, and said, "I'm going to convert these to YouTube quality."
Lots of people are going to want this. Yeah, the
so
quality
many people are
is
going to
so
want this.
Shitty.
But
so
I think
terrible.
if I'm correct, I think you can actually stream Freddy's Nightmare like on Shudder.
Yeah, that's up there. That's actually not that bad. This does not hold a candle to Freddy's Nightmares.
I think I attempted to watch it for like 5 minutes and I couldn't get through it.
What, Freddy's Nightmares?
No, I just couldn't do it.
There's a few good episodes, but they're all different. I mean, you got to go through the whole series to dig out what's good and what's not. Which may be the same thing with Friday the 13th, but
maybe I'll give it a shot.
All right, you do that, and I'll watch Friday the 13th. We have a deal.
We have a deal, and then you and I can converse on that together.
Yes, we'll see how bad.
We'll definitely
you find the worst episode, and I'll find the worst episode, and we'll discuss
that is a deal.
Yes, and then we can dig deeper. We'll go to like 21 Jump Street or something because there's some gems in that one.
Oh, I'm sure, especially with Richard Grieco.
Oh, those are great. They're like 35 in high school. All right, sorry, Mark.
All right, Mike Ranger, you picked up a point in the first round. You take control of the board. What category are we going with next?
Well, Mark, I think we're going to go with news because when you can't find any news, you need to create your own. And that's kind of what I did here. I decided to bend the rules and just find news within news. And where do you find news within news? You do it in a newspaper. So I went over to newspapers.com and I found a review in the Daily News on October 24th, 1997, covering The Simpsons' annual Treehouse of Horror titled They're the Ghoul Standard of TV Comedy. Simpsons' Halloween Treehouse is a treat. The review gives The Simpsons' ninth Treehouse of Horror episode a 4-star rating. This year's trilogy of stories where Omega Man, Homer shelters in a bomb shelter, Fly vs. Fly, Bart's molecules are mixed with a fly, Easy Bake Coven, Marge is accused of witchcraft in 17th century Salem. The article goes on to praise the subtle homages of the pop culture history and goes as far as to say that the opening and closing credits are, quote, funnier than most other comedies on TV. The first Treehouse of Horror episode aired on October 5th, 1990, and to date there have been 31 Treehouse of Horror episodes and are widely regarded as some of the most anticipated Halloween horror television episodes of the year.
And they now have Funko Pops.
Ah, that's right.
Look at that. Everything's come full circle.
Who doesn't have a Funko Pop these days?
We don't.
I don't have one.
We don't have one yet. Dueling
I'm
Decades
sure-
doesn't have a Funko.
I'm sure
Pop.
you can get one pretty easily. My daughter's trying to get rid of, like, I bought them for her like 5 years ago when she was like 10 or 11, and now she wants to get rid of them all. We have tons of them.
Yeah, you can repurpose them. Like, I have my Jerry Garcia Funko Pop, and he fell down off the shelf and the sunglasses broke off. Looks just like Kenny Rogers now.
I actually have someone sending me a custom one of myself.
Oh,
wow.
that's awesome. Who,
Yeah,
do you know who it is?
Network.
Do you know who it is? Like what company it is?
It's this girl, Emily. She makes them for like a lot of different bands out there. She's done like Iced on Kills. She's done Motionless in White. She's done A Day to Remember and Falling in Reverse, and now she's doing me.
That is awesome. I want to be done in
So
a
excited about it. Like I don't know if you could tell in the background, but
You got a
Yeah.
few. Yeah,
got a few toys laying around the house.
we all do. We're all guilty.
Yeah.
All right, Mancrush, what did you bring for the news round?
All right, so let me unpack this one. So unlike Mike, I found a news story, but it has to be developed a little bit. Not as good as the 800 pounds of cocaine that I had last week, but it's still a good story. All right, so let's go March 13th, 1987. We get a deserving sequel here from 1987. And this time, though, it's not something that was done out of this, like, because they wanted to, out of the love of it, but it was something that was done out of necessity. Because when you look at Sam Raimi, he made The Evil Dead back earlier in the 80s. And he was just trying to catch fire at the time. He was trying to create an over-the-top horror flick. And out of the gate, that movie did horrible at the box office. It was listed on the UK's Video Nasty list. It was given an X rating, and obviously little screening around the country. However, all those things that actually ended up being like a positive, that and the severe brutality of the movie actually ended up making the movie a huge success. And when I was like 5, when this came out on rental in 1983, I don't really know if this is the reason why, but I would venture to guess that it got around because of word of mouth. It was probably like the biggest asset. So now the studios, they're all interested in Sam Raimi, and he signs on to do a movie called Crime Wave. Matter of fact, if you go to our Facebook, facebook.com, www.facebook.com/dueling decades, every day we put up the new movies that have been released. And just a couple of days ago, we had Crime Wave on there. And I won't get too deep into Crime Wave, but go see it. Raimi, Coen Brothers, Bruce Campbell, Brian James. Enough said, just go see that one. But it flopped hard at the box office. Budget was blown. Embassy Pictures, their executives got involved. So you know that's always shit. They hacked the movie up. And that was all she wrote. So as quick as like Sam Raimi's filmmaking career had taken off, now it seemed like it was over. This is 1985 now. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit before getting into the story itself, because I think it's important to show how like Evil Dead 2 had to succeed. I mean, we talk a lot about like movie studios, but careers do actually hang in the balance a lot of times when these guys do movies. So, and I found all this interesting because I was going to go to film school until I spoke to somebody, actually a filmmaker during my orientation, who told me, you're only as good as your last work. You live out of your briefcase and you're only as good as your last work, and it can end in a second. And I didn't enroll in school. Ended up going for fucking like gym science or some shit in my first semester. Terrible. Anyhow, so this article, it's out of the Los Angeles Times by Jack Matthews. And again, it's about the movie everyone loves, it, Evil Dead 2. And the article here, it's titled, How Evil Dead 2 Dodged the Kiss of Death in X. And here's the abridged tale here. Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, is now playing in a theater near you. It has no rating. And though parents are warned in a minuscule print that it may be too strong for children under the age of 17, there are no restrictions at the box office. Any kid who has a price of admission and is tall enough to reach a ticket counter can get into what the Village Voice is calling Pee-wee's Haunted Playhouse. There are decapitations, axe killings, gore galore. How did this slide by and into 340 theaters nationwide? Evil Dead 2 was financed by DG. Of course, it's D. Laurinaitis Entertainment Group. Until recently, it was scheduled for American release by DG. But when newspaper ads started showing up in papers last week, the name of the releasing company was no longer DG. It was something called Rosebud Releasing Corp. Alex D. Benedetti, who now we know is the son-in-law of the DEG owner, Dino De Laurentiis, They made him an executive producer of Evil Dead 2. He's also the president of Rosebud. And he said that DEG sold him the American rights to the movie because DEG and Sam Raimi couldn't agree on cuts for the film. The film was never submitted to the movie rating board, but everyone involved in making this movie and the marketing department agree that there is no question this would have gotten an X rating. So how did a company like Rosebud get the American releasing rights when they have no distribution network and managed to book it in 343 theaters and do all the advertising? Well, DEG claims that they booked all the theaters and adverts prior to selling the rights to Rosebud. When asked if DEG would get paid for those services, we were met with, and I quote, "That's a personal question. I am a private company and I don't have to go into that kind of detail." That's from Alex D. Benedetti. Sam Raimi was contracted to create an R-rated film for DEG. When it became apparent that it couldn't be trimmed effectively, the deal was made. We could have forced him to edit it down to an R rating, but the movie would have been 62 minutes long, said Lawrence Gleason, president of marketing at DEG. Although this backdoor approach looks to have succeeded, MPAA President Jack Valenti says there are no changes being contemplated in the rating system. And obviously, as we all know now, we got NC-17 in 1990. And now if you look at IMDb and you look up Evil Dead 2, it's actually listed as NC-17.
Right.
So Raimi goes back to his roots. He basically, even though they deny this, he basically did a soft reboot of Evil Dead 2. And then he went on to have a fantastic filmmaking career. It was that important, and he did it right.
Wow. I never knew that about Evil Dead 2.
No rating. Can you imagine?
That's crazy.
Can we just all talk about the fact that is anybody else besides me excited about the fact that he's going to helm Doctor Strange too?
Dude.
Yeah,
Oh, dude.
that's going to be really cool to see what his take is on that.
Well, I mean, they're going in like a semi-horror direction, so I'm excited about it, especially for the Bruce Campbell cameo. Did you guys see on Instagram he posted the script, his part?
No.
So basically he's going Doctor Strange like appears in this like misty forest, and he turns around and sees a guy with here's like the sound of a chainsaw starting up.
No way.
And Bruce Campbell is standing there as like this disheveled man, and he's supposed to like ask Doctor Strange who he is, and he says that he's here looking for this book, like this mystical book and stuff like that. And he goes, "Does it by chance have a face on it?" I'm like so excited. If that scene actually happens, I will shit myself.
Oh my God. I can't see it, but that's Disney. Is Disney really going to put Bruce Campbell in one of their movies?
But it's Marvel.
Yeah, I know.
Just if they do that, that puts everything that happened in Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, all in the MCU.
Yeah. That's
So,
pretty
Why
wild.
not?
I mean, I don't give a shit, but I just like it's Disney.
Who does the Evil Dead comics? Is it Marvel?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I have one upstairs. I don't feel like running up to get it, but I feel like it is Marvel.
I can Google that.
All I gotta say is if they finally go and actually do that, and then years later we get actual Secret Wars, they better bring Ash in the Secret Wars then.
How could you not?
Yeah, come on.
That
You
would be
got
amazing.
Even just the fact that we're getting another superhero film directed by Sam Raimi
That's really
that
cool.
actually is going to have a horror element to it. I'm just excited about that, to see him come back.
I'm waiting for the James Gunn Suicide Squad too.
Yeah, who isn't?
James Gunn is the man. But it
You
looks
can
like
tell from the
Dark
trailer.
Horse makes it.
You can tell already from the trailer that he's got it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
10 times better than the other one.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to allow that to get screwed up. I hope.
I don't want to get too far off, but and you can cut this if you want, Mark. But I watched the Batman trailer last night. Looks
Dark.
pretty badass.
Dark.
Looks
It's gonna be
dark,
fun.
but it looks cool. All right.
Are you team Pattinson?
I wasn't in the beginning, but it completely changed my mind.
Well, keep in mind, like in 1989, everybody talked shit about Michael Keaton.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like I said to these guys after watching the, I don't even know if you caught it, but I wrote, yeah, I'm kind of digging Robert Smith as Batman.
It kind of looked like him in there.
Did.
We took
Whatever.
the helmet
We're getting Welcome to the Black Parade Batman. I couldn't be more excited about that.
off.
All right, guys. So let's take a look at what I brought for the news round. You know, so often in horror movies, filmmakers will choose a location to shoot that already has some spooky history behind it. My news story tells us a dark tale that actually proves to be in reverse of that and shows us that truth indeed is stranger than fiction. So we'll go over to the Star Tribune in Minneapolis, Minnesota, June 28th, 1977, where the headline reads, Duluth woman, nurse slain. Elizabeth Congdon, 83 years old and one of Minnesota's richest people, was found slain in her Duluth mansion early Monday morning, a pillow smothering her face. Her nurse, Velma Patella, was also killed in the 39-room house. She had been beaten over the head with an 8-inch brass candlestick and died at a pool of her own blood along the stairway landing. Duluth police said that last night that they had no suspects on the case, which has all of the elements of the opening of chapters of a Agatha Christie mystery. So let's go to another article I found on the exact same day. This one's over in the St. Cloud Times, though. It says Condon's killer could be anyone. We just don't know who we're looking for, says a Duluth detective. Everyone is a suspect. I'm a suspect. You're a suspect. Bodies of the two women were found Monday morning at the palatial Congdon mansion, secluded behind the walls of a graveyard and along the long road next to Lake Superior shoreline. In 1972, the estate was the site of a suspenseful film, You'll Like My Mother, a thriller which included a killing. Most of the movie, which stars Patty Duke, was filmed inside the 39-room Congdon home. So at this point, you're wondering, who the hell killed Mrs. Congdon? Well, this is where the tale turns even darker, because come to find out, she was murdered, and she was murdered by her adopted daughter, Marjorie, along with the help of her husband, Roger Caldwell. So Marjorie was set to receive $8 million at the time of her mother's death, and she had promised her husband, Roger, about $2 million of that. Based on evidence found at the scene later, in Marjorie's possession, they were arrested. Roger was first to trial, and he was convicted in 1978. Marjorie, although, was acquitted in 1979. Now, the Minnesota Supreme Court overturned Caldwell's decision in 1983, and rather than risk acquittal and a retrial, the prosecution offered him a plea deal in exchange for a confession. He confessed to both murders on July 5th, 1983, and was released. He committed suicide on May 18th, 1988. In his suicide note, he claimed he was innocent of the killing of Elizabeth Congdon and never got any of the money promised from Marjorie. So I give you a tale that is so twisted, and it's just out there, guys. You got to go look at this up. It's the murder of Elizabeth Congdon on the set, ironically, of the movie You'll Like My Mother, June 1977.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, I told you guys that this one gets dark, so let's toss it over to AJ Sorry.
My name does happen to do that to people. It's okay.
It chokes me up, man.
It's when you get to from the to the F. It's a brutal jump.
Let's toss it over to AJ Diaferio for the ruling on the news round.
I mean, I really, really wanted to give it to you, Mancrush, because I fucking love anything to do with Evil Dead. But Mark, I got to give it to you, man.
Wow.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah, I stumbled upon it and it got really bizarre. And as I read the article about the murders and how it was in this house that was filmed in that was used for a horror movie, so I started to do my research. And I'm like, did anyone ever find out who killed this woman? And yeah, it was her adopted daughter, who was one of like 3 adopted daughters. Marjorie, of course, was the black sheep of the family, they say. Well, that's
if you watch enough Forensic Files, you can kind of see where that was going.
Yeah.
I never got into that. What channel is that?
First of all, Pluto TV.
ID or whatever? Oh, it's Pluto. Okay.
I don't know if you use Pluto TV at all, but Pluto
Sometimes.
TV has an entire channel that's just devoted to Forensic Files, and it's fantastic. There's also a channel that's only unsolved mysteries, and so that's kind of like our TV setting on the
it's like
smart
ID
TV.
channel or something, right?
It's awesome,
ID. Dude, every time I turn on, somebody's getting murdered.
Honestly, I like just kind of playing guitar, sitting at home, and just having that on in the background.
All right, guys. So I pick up a point, tie this game heading into our final 1-point round, and I take control of the board. You know what, guys? Let's stop beating around the bush. We're going straight to the movies round. So my selection is a film that I vividly remember watching on cable TV and seeing what would become one of my all-time favorite horror movie endings.
Is it Meatballs?
It is not Meatballs.
Oh, all right.
So I watched this movie again the other night, and I was actually able to find a copy of it on YouTube, ripped straight from a VHS tape, commercials and all, from a showing on Commander USA's Groovy Movies.
Nice.
Which is probably what I was watching it on back in the day. So it was fantastic. And on this show, all the time we talk about picks have legs. Well, this movie has over 40,000 of them. In rural Arizona, countless killer tarantulas are migrating through a farm town, killing everything in their path. The town's veterinarian will do everything in his power to survive and stop the onslaught. Starring a man whose face is now synonymous with horror, but maybe not for the right reasons, Mr. William Shatner. I unleash on you 1977's The Kingdom of the Spiders. Over 5,000 live tarantulas were actually wrangled for this film at the cost of $50,000. That's $224,000 in 2021, in case you're wondering, kids, just on live spiders, mind you. Now, the spiders themselves, they cause some production issues. Due to the cannibalistic natures of tarantula, each spider had to be kept in separate containers. And since the spiders are, well, naturally shy around humans, for the scenes where it looked like they were attacking the people, they had to coerce them by blowing jets of air at the spiders to get them to move towards the people.
That's actually how they used to get Hulk Hogan to move around on the set of Suburban Commando. That's a true story.
So overall, it's one of the better animal attacks movies, I think, of the 1970s, despite the huge plot hole that totally forgets that tarantula venom is not dangerous to humans. So everyone in this movie was dying for no reason, because it wasn't the tarantulas.
Don't they just make you itchy?
Yeah, they just make you itchy. That's all. Nice. So producer Ego Cantor hinted in a Fangoria interview that he thought his film was being copied by the famous film Arachnophobia in 1990. But he said, I thought it was a copy, but what do? Go and sue Spielberg? Of course not. So he kind of let that one slide. So I give you The Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner, 1977.
I kind of wish that William Shatner was in Arachnophobia, because that was a far superior film.
Yeah, and if you've never seen Kingdom of the Spiders, the ending is just awesome. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You can just go on YouTube, look up Kingdom of the Spiders ending. Either you're going to love it or hate it, but it's dark.
I have Arachnophobia, so I can't watch Arachnophobia. I'm pretty sure I actually got Arachnophobia from watching Arachnophobia as a child. Like that scene in the shower.
Yes.
Do you remember all the ads, like in the early 90s, was it 1990 or 92 when they came out? All the comic books had Arachnophobia ads, like on the back cover.
Yeah.
And it just had that single spider hanging down. Oh, man. Nope. Not going to see that. Like, I wonder if that hurt their box office totals of all the people that were like, no, I fucking hate spiders. I'm not going to see that movie. Fuck that.
You know what's crazy about that movie? It's a comedy.
Yeah. Really?
It's a comedy.
It's a dark comedy.
There's nothing fucking funny about that movie.
It's got John Goodman in it.
Yeah, it's got John Goodman and Jeff Daniels. There's still nothing funny about that film.
It's terrifying.
I can't make it through it. Just thinking about it.
He steps on the one.
In Kingdom of the Spiders, they drive over a dozen of them, and you just see them all splotting, and it's horrible.
When you said spider wrangler, I was just picturing like somebody running around with a little cowboy hat on.
In a lasso, but it's a very tiny lasso.
Get over here.
I actually know a scorpion wrangler, and he is an ex like amateur wrestler, and he's exactly what you'd imagine he looks like inside of your head.
Wow.
Like whatever you're picturing, you're right. I met him on the set of a music video for like this rapper kid that my friend was filming. And well, needless to say, we're Facebook friends now. So if I ever need, I got
These scorpions wrangled.
Yeah, I got a scorpion wrangler.
You never know. I actually, when I was in Iraq, we caught a scorpion and we named him Mackenzie. We caught him in a water bottle.
Was it a camo spider?
It was a black. No, it wasn't a spider. It was a scorpion. It was a black scorpion. And
I'm still thinking about spiders.
This thing was so stupid. Like we tried to feed it all the time and it just would never eat, and then it just died. So we had to let it out.
Yeah, they're fucking cool looking in person.
Yeah,
like,
but they'll fuck you up though.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. But they're still cool as shit looking.
Yeah, they would stab through a water bottle, like directly through it with that tail.
Wow,
insane. Imagine what it did to your skin.
And this fucking guy is just grabbing it by the tail.
Yeah,
I'm like watching this guy the whole time, and he's got one that's like the size of my fist, and he's just like picking it up by the tail and putting it in the little. He had like what you would keep like cream cheese in, like one of those kind of containers.
Wow.
And I'm just like, that guy's gonna become my friend.
Stay out of the French onion dip. That's a
All right, Mike Ranger, what did you bring for the movies round?
Well, Mark, released on December 12th, 1997, with a runtime of 120 minutes, a rating of R, a budget of $24 million, and a gross of $172 million, was the Wes Craven directed Scream 2. Now, Wes Craven releases Scream at the end of 96, and it's still playing in January, making tons of money. Then he produces The Wishmaster, that sees a 97 release, and then he finishes it off with Scream 2. So it's a big year for Wes Craven, as well as for Scream writer Kevin Williamson, who also releases I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97. So you got Neve Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, Jamie Kennedy returns, and we get more stars like Jada Pinkett, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jerry O'Connell, Laurie Metcalf, Omar Epps, Tori Spelling, Luke Wilson. So it's a solid sequel, the top 100 soundtrack for the year. We would later see Scream 3 and 4 and TV series. Part 5 supposedly went into production in 2020. So 1997 has some decent horror movies, but really it was all about Scream.
Wow.
And there's a glory hole scene.
There is?
Remember that? Yeah, and then when the guy goes into the bathroom in the movie theater.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
stabs him right through the.
Scream 2. He gets stabbed in the head.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Omar Epps, right?
Be careful of those glory holes, gents. Never know what's on the other side.
Talking about Scream 1, I'm like, who went in the bathroom? Henry Winkler?
It's a deleted scene.
All this talk of glory holes makes me wondering what you have for the movies round, Mancrush.
First, let me preface by saying I didn't go Lost Boys here because it's been done. I wanted to go a little bit deeper. So we go May 1st, 1987. And let me just say, like, I don't normally select sequels unless I totally think that they're well done. Some movies out there, they don't even deserve sequels, but in the 80s especially, we were served with sequels after sequels, and it just happened all the time. But there are movies that deserve sequels, and those sequels, they have to be something of merit, and they have to go above and beyond what the original was in order to make it a success. This particular film, I think it definitely falls into that category. The original for this movie, it came out in 1982, and it's a phenomenal anthology. And I may trigger some people with this, but I actually prefer the sequel to the original in this case. I got nothing bad to say about the sequel, the original that I'm talking about. But I think the second one just resonated more with me. It was on television more. And I feel like all the stories that were on it were memorable. I could remember them all. The original, I remember them, but it's fuzzy. Anyway, at the box office, this movie did about $14 million. It's about $33 million in 2021, which isn't too shabby for an R-rated horror film in 1987. Pretty average box office. But the names associated with this movie are that of legend. You got George Romero, Stephen King, and Tom Savini, whom I brought up a couple episodes back when I had Dawn of the Dead, so you can check that one out. You also get the future star and Greg Nicotero working on the makeup, which is very early in his career. And actually, he did makeup in Evil Dead 2 as well, which I didn't mention before. But the biggest difference from the original, they went with lesser known actors in the sequel here. Instead of 5 segments, which you got in the original, you only got 3. And since they had like a limited budget, Stephen King and crew, they had to cut 2 segments that were originally planned. And interesting, one of those segments, it was called Cat from Hell. It was eventually picked up and made for Tales from the Dark Side. Remember the movie in 1990?
Yeah.
Just to spark your memory, that was the one where old Buster Poindexter, he plays a hitman, and some rich old dude pays him to kill his cat. Remember that one? So that was actually supposed to be in this movie right here, but they had to cut it. So if you're in the mood for like a vicious wood statue that scalps his prey, the love child of the Blob, and the Toxic Avenger, comic books, meat-eating Venus flytraps, neighborhood bullies that get what they deserve in the end, cheating floozies that are continually thanked for a ride, then you should go out and grab yourself a copy of Creepshow 2, May 1st, 1987.
Fantastic. All right, let's throw it down to AJ Diaferio for the ruling on the movies round.
Oh man, I was so ready to I already knew my pick ahead of time, and then you came out of left field, Mancrush, with Creepshow 2, and that movie has such a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
I used to watch Creepshow 1 and 2 just over and over again, and I absolutely agree with you that Creepshow 2 is superior.
I don't get it, because if you look at reviews, it seems like everybody's opposite, but everybody I talk to one-on-one agrees with the fact that Creepshow 2 is the better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you watch the series at all?
I'll
did,
go
yeah,
one.
when it was on-
I'll be the guy
yeah.
that's different here.
Oh, you were that guy? All right.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
You like 1 better?
Yeah, but I grew up with 1. We had it on Betamax.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the Indian thing just does it for me. I love that. That's like one of my favorite
so
ones.
Good. Scalps his head.
I really wanted to go with you, Mike, but I'm gonna go with Mancrush on this one because Creepshow, anything Creepshow is a gem.
So amazing.
All right, Mancrush, you pick up a point, tying this game at 1 point each, heading into our first 2-point round, and you have control of the board. Where are we going, man?
All right. So since AJ's here, I think we'll finish up with music. You kind of screwed me a little bit because I was trying to play the strategy a little bit and go hot products when it wasn't a 2-point round, but let's do it anyway. Let's go October 5th, 1987. I jumped all over this one because it was near and dear to me. I remember playing the shit out of this game back in the Commodore 64 days. This was actually made by Lucasfilms Games at the time, which is now LucasArts. And every title they put out in the late 80s was amazing, which you would figure from something that was George Lucas backed and bankrolled at that point. But this was a graphic adventure game. And for 1987, this was like way ahead of its time. The graphics were amazing for 1987. But if you look at it now, like I watch all these videos of it, it kind of makes you sad because they just look okay. I mean, it's 1987, so it is what it is. But if you're a fan of B-movie horror, this game would have been right up your alley. That's exactly what they intended this one for. This was one of the first adventure games that I remember playing where you didn't have to type in the commands in your adventure game. Everything on it was point and click. So if you wanted to pick something up, you just went to pick up and you clicked on it, and there were 14 other actions you could select. For a 9-year-old, this was just knocked out of the park for me. Also, they introduced cutscenes to the world. So you'd be plugging away at the game, and then it would just stop and show you what all the evil people were doing inside the house. If they were talking shit about one another, which they did in the game. If they left a door open, it was actually pretty cool. I'm not a big gamer now. Mike, are they still using cutscenes in games?
I would say that now 60% of the game is a cutscene.
All right. So it all started right here with this game. And the game that I'm talking about is Maniac Mansion. It's the game that tells the story of a young man named Dave, whose girlfriend Sandy has been kidnapped by the evil Dr. Edison and imprisoned in the Edison family's mansion. The story, it's convoluted, but it's 1987 and it's a video game supposedly for kids. It's a mad scientist. He kidnaps a young girl because of an evil meteor and then threatens to perform experiments on her brain. You have like weird man-eating plants. You have mummies. You have bizarre characters that kind of look like walking French ticklers with holes on their chests. It's fucking weird. There's a warning when you go into the house that any trespasser will be horribly mutilated. I mean, what 9-year-old would not dig this game? I mean, I just don't understand. To play the game, this was the cool part about the game. You'd play it. You play as Dave, obviously. We get to choose 2 of his friends to accompany Dave into the house. And each player has their own talent. So you could swap between characters to do any of the challenges they might be good at. So depending on what characters you chose, the game is played completely different. And this is 1987. This is not like we're talking about a 2021 game where that's common. This was like a big deal. It was running on floppy disks on a freaking Commodore 64, but way ahead of its time. It's Maniac Mansion. Oh, one last thing. This actually did get its own TV show as well. I think it was on the Family Channel in the early 90s. And Joe Flaherty was the main star of that one. So, you know, it's good. Yeah. It's Maniac Mansion.
All right, Mike Ranger, what do you have for the hot products round?
Well, on October 2nd, 1997, game developer and publisher Konami released Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the Sony PlayStation with a mature rating and an SRP of $59.99. The follow-up sequel to Castlevania Rondo of Blood takes place 4 years later and reintroduces non-linear level design, exploration, and role-playing elements first explored in Simon's Quest. The sleeper hit went on to sell over 500,000 copies worldwide. Castlevania Symphony of the Night was awarded PlayStation Game of the Year by EGM Magazine, as well as Best Sequel, and is widely regarded as one of the best games of all time, and has been re-released across multiple consoles over the years. So Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Wow. Well, over in 1977, I didn't have any, fancy video games or anything. I actually had to go with a book. I don't know if you guys remember those things, but so my hot product's a book, and it's a book that actually every horror fan knows of, regardless if you've read the 447-page novel. In late September of 1974, author Stephen King was looking for a change of setting for his new book, since his last few books had been taking place in what would become his usual setting, his home state of Maine. And published in January of 1977, I give you The Shining. It would be King's 3rd published novel and his first hardback bestseller, and it made him into the household horror name that we all know. King and his wife Tabby checked into the Grand Stanley Hotel in Colorado in 1972, and he said, "We were the only guests, as it turns out. The following day, they were going to close the place down for the winter. Wandering through the corridors, I thought it seemed the perfect setting and the archetypal setting for a ghost story. That night, I dreamed of my 3-year-old son running through the corridors, looking back over his shoulder, his eyes wide, screaming. He was being chased by a fire hose. I woke up with a tremendous jerk, sweating all over, within an inch of falling out of bed. I got up, lit up a cigarette, sat in a chair, looked out the window at the Rockies, and by the time the cigarette was done, I had the bones of the book firmly set in my mind. The Shining would go on to sell over 1 million copies and would, of course, go on to be further immortalized in the 1980 film, a TV series, a play, and yes, even an opera. The story eventually got a sequel called Dr. Sleep, which was penned by Stephen King, and it got its own film in 2019. So my hot product, I give you The Shining, published January of 1977.
All right. Wow. I guess this just goes to me, huh?
Yeah, let's kick it over to AJ. What do you got, man?
I'm just going to say I have to go with The Shining. I'm sorry, everybody.
Do you have any Maniac Mansion toys? Like maybe like a French tickler standing up back there or anything?
Come on, you can't beat The Shining. Come on.
That's a good
even
one.
Dr. Sleep, a sequel, was fantastic. Stephen King, even fun story about The Shining, which I'm sure you guys already know, that when the film came out, Stephen King actually hated what Stanley Kubrick did with it, and Stanley Kubrick actually changed the ending of The Shining, because originally I think it was supposed to burn down. And so when it came time for Mike Flanagan to go and do the sequel, he actually went to Stephen King, met with him, and pitched him what he wanted to do for the end of his story. And Stephen King actually signed off on it, because a lot of what he did kind of undid a lot of the stuff that Kubrick did.
Wow. I still have not seen the sequel yet.
You should see the sequel. You know what?
How long is it? I think that might have been.
Put off Friday the 13th, the series, for a few days. Go sit down and watch Dr. Sleep. You won't be disappointed.
Is it over 2 hours?
It's like 2 and 10, maybe.
No,
it's
not
really not that long. It's not. Even The Shining is not that long. It feels.
It feels long.
It feels like you've been there for weeks.
Oh,
but
it feels like you could read the book in the time it takes to watch the movie.
Exactly. No, it's worth it, man. I would absolutely, if I were you, I would watch that as soon as you can. Ewan McGregor's fantastic in it, and it's so much fan service.
Yeah.
What's his name?
McGregor's awesome.
Elliot from E.T. actually plays Jack Torrance.
Oh, that's a
and he
good
kills it. He does a fantastic job.
What else has he been in since E.T.?
Oh, he was in, speaking of Mike Flanagan, he was in 2 of his series. He was in the Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor.
Yep.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. Tom, what is his name? Thomas? No.
Yeah, it is something with a Tom.
It's something with a Tom.
Oh,
I can't think of it.
Henry Thomas?
Henry Thomas.
That's it.
Yes, Henry Thomas. He's awesome, man. They did a really good job. Like, Mike Flanagan is a true fan of that kind of style of horror, and he really plays it very well. Like, you can see that he would be able to take it on if you watched like Bly Manor or Haunting on Hill House. Like, when I heard that he was going to direct Dr. Sleep, I got really intrigued by it. I really like his work, especially the movie. I don't know if you guys ever saw Hush.
Yeah,
Hush is great. His wife Kate Siegel, they actually write a lot of those things together. They wrote Hush together. I believe they did Hill House and Bly Manor together. They come up with some crazy stories. I'm pretty sure she did some work on Dr. Sleep as well.
Wow.
Not 100% on the
list. I will put it on the list. I have. No, actually, there's not that many movies on my list now because I
bump it up.
Most of them out. I'll put it up there.
Put it up there. Trust me, you'll enjoy it. It's great.
Definitely, Friday the 13th is going on there though. But I was thinking about this as we're going through the rounds. I have to find an HD version of it though, or at least something that's been mastered so it doesn't look like complete dog shit. Because if you try to watch the YouTube ones, it's terrible.
I will help you on this quest.
All right, excellent.
I will locate somewhere. Someone has rendered it. Remember, anything that's dog shit awful, somebody out there is worked on restoring it somehow.
It's very true. Actually,
nostalgia never dies.
Might have put it out. Let me just check.
Yeah, I think there's a DVD box set of it now.
Because I've seen it before.
Yeah.
But I don't remember where I saw it.
All right, guys. So I guess we will move on. I picked up 2 points in that round, and I take control of the board. But, of course, there's only the music round left, so I'll start this one off. Released in November of 1977, I'm going to give you guys Spectres, the 5th studio album by the Blue Oyster Cult. Not only is this album titled Conjure Up Some Spooky Images, but the album begins and ends with 2 horror-themed songs. The latter being the final song on the album, Nosferatu, which takes us back to Transylvania for a musical retelling of the tale of the original horror movie. But the album is probably best remembered for the first cut on the album, and it's a title that also pays tribute to another horrific icon of cinema. Come on, guys, you all know the words. Oh no, oh no, there goes Tokyo. Go, go, Godzilla. The song would go on to become a staple of radio airplay, along with Don't Fear the Reaper, the band's biggest hit, and would become a mainstay of their live show. So Godzilla has been covered in many, many, many times by bands such as Moe, Racer X, Fu Manchu, The Smashing Pumpkins, Sebastian Bach, Double Experience, Fighting Gravity, and probably the most recent by Serge from System of a Down. He covered it for the Godzilla King of the Monsters soundtrack. Oddly enough, that cover of the song would be the first time that Godzilla was actually used in a Godzilla movie. Now, side note, if you've ever wondered what the iconic Blue Oyster Cult symbol means, I had to look it up. Well, in Greek mythology, In Greek mythology, the hook and cross symbol, that's the symbol of Kronos, the king of the Titans, and the father is Zeus. It's also the alchemical symbol for lead, the heaviest of metals. So I give you the king of the Titans, Godzilla, by the Blue Oyster Cult.
All right.
All right, Mike Ranger, what do you have for the music round?
Well, Mark, after Scream released at the end of '96 and reinvigorated the slasher genre, every studio got on the train, and in 1997, Kevin Williamson, writer of Scream, decided to grab one of the 4 remaining cast members from Party of 5 to star in the slasher I Know What You Did Last Summer. But when Jennifer Love Hewitt asked, "What are you waiting for?" the answer was for someone to show us their boobs. Freddie Prinze, Ryan Phillippe, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Hook Hand, anybody, somebody's, just take your fucking top off. Well, if we can't get a nice pair of Warlocks, well, at least we can get a quality soundtrack on CD or cassette. And on October 7th, 1997, we got the I Know What You Did Last Summer, the soundtrack, featuring songs by the likes of Offspring, Our Lady of Peace, Soul Asylum, and Korn. Who can forget Coolest Shakers' cover of Deep Purple's Hush? One reviewer from the Sunbury, Pennsylvania Daily Item wrote that the Columbia release quote shouldn't be scoffed at.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a damn good cover.
Kevin O'Hare in the Honolulu Star wrote that songs thrill on I Know soundtrack, despite one track by Typo Negative covering Seals and Crofts' Summer Breeze, which he says may be reason enough to either buy or destroy the new soundtrack.
Did you guys see that meme that goes around that said Typo Negative sounds like Sylvester Stallone picked up a bass for like 20 minutes? That's my favorite.
You just ruined Typo Negative for me, man. I'm never gonna get that out of my head.
I always said that Typo Negative sounds like that Dracula musical from what the hell's that movie?
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It sounds like the Dracula musical that Peter Brennan's trying to write.
I love that movie.
Great.
Inside of you. Inside of you.
All right, Mancrush, what did you bring for the music round?
All right, so let's go March 22nd, 1987. And last month, I told a story about Cliff Burton and this very band. You'd have to go back to that episode to listen to the full thing, but it was a story that was taken out from the autobiography of this band's guitarist and co-founder. Long story short, Cliff Burton told this guy that they were going to shit can Lars Ulrich after the completion of the Damage Inc. tour. And this band was actually the opening act for that tour. Obviously, that never happened. And unfortunately, Cliff Burton died during that tour. However, with them being such close friends, it makes a lot of sense that this band would dedicate this album to Cliff Burton. So with that, rest in peace, Cliff. This one's for you here. So this band, it's their 3rd studio album. It was certified gold. And this really, it put them in the upper echelon, like that big 4 of thrash metal bands, along with Metallica, Megadeth, and Slayer. So if you're listening to the show for a while, or if you're a thrash metal fan, you obviously already know the band that I'm talking about is going to be Anthrax. And the album that I'm talking about is Among the Living. So how do you tie horror into this? Well, first off, it's not because of Cliff's death. I'll tell you that. However, before we get there, this album, it contains amazing tracks. You got Indians, Caught in a Mosh, NFL, which how do you pronounce NFL?
NFL, Nice Fucking Life?
Well, no. It's got an actual name to that song. I always called it NFL.
It's Nice Fucking Life spelled backwards.
Oh, and I've been trying to pronounce that for my entire fucking life. And I've always been like, yeah, NFL. But a lot of critics of this album said this is one of the best thrash metal albums ever. And a few years back, Rolling Stone put this album on number 20 of the top 100 greatest metal albums of all time. So that's not too shabby. Here's the horror tie-in. So let's take a look at the title track of this one, Among the Living. It's got legs because Paramount Plus and CBS just finished their reboot of Stephen King's The Stand back in March, which is actually pretty damn good if you haven't seen it. And it's just funny going through all these decades. Stephen King keeps coming up.
Yes.
I mean, he really is like
Yeah.
the king of horror. I mean, the dude's like all over the fucking place. But the song itself, it's basically an homage to the best-selling book. Charlie Drummer and Scott Ian, Scott Ian told him that his drumming reminded him of certain themes from The Stand, which I don't really understand how that can happen, but sure. And they're both huge Stephen King fans, so they wrote Among the Living.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obvious parts of the song that are about Randall Flagg.
Yeah, I'm the walking dude.
Yeah, if you just go through the lyrics, I'm the walking dude, I can see all the world. You know, twist your mind with fear, like the whole thing. And then the division and bringing everybody back together. It's all about The Stand.
Yeah, follow me or die.
It's fucking incredible.
Fantastic. I almost actually picked that in a previous episode, but I didn't because there was something else that came up. But fantastic pick. I'm a huge fan of Anthrax, huge fan of that album and that song. So,
and have you ever been walking through your life trying to say Elmo Fushnicken or whatever the fuck I've been saying my entire life?
No, I've been an Anthrax fan for a long time, so I kind of caught on because also on Attack of the Killer Bees, there's a Nice Fucking Ballad, which I actually tried to use as my wedding song. That one didn't go over so well.
I remember when you tried to tell Scott Ian that.
Yeah.
He didn't care.
Fun. Did you guys know that they're actually they're doing an anthology comic book series based on that album?
No shit.
Yeah,
really?
I heard about that.
Yeah, 100%. I actually was just listening to a podcast that had Scott Ian on it, and it was on Bloody Disgusting. They had they were talking about how they're bringing back like a lot of like people from DC are coming in to write for it. Rob Zombie's even writing one of the issues, and basically what they did was they took each song on the album and they gave it to somebody, and they told them to like write their own interpretation of like a comic book story based around it. And so it's going to be a collection anthology series.
That's why. What are they going to do about Among the Living? They're just going to redo The Stand?
I mean, who knows, man?
Reimagine it, I guess. I mean,
they're going to have to.
Yeah.
Even, what is it? In the comic book world, DC Metal is actually about to release a collection of comic books based around like various different bands like Lacuna Coil. They're doing who is it? Megadeth. They're doing
They just released the Grateful Dead one, actually.
Oh yeah, that one's out there.
Yeah, that was just released
awesome.
as a comic.
Yeah, those DC Metal ones are awesome. But no, you guys should definitely check that out when it comes out. I know that they're
it sounds fucking dope.
Yeah, they're in the process of making it right now.
Awesome. All right, AJ, let's hear what your verdict is for the music round.
Again, I was torn between Mike and Mancrush because the soundtrack to I Know What You Did Last Summer is iconic, and especially that cover. But I'm a kid of the '80s. I love thrash and hair metal, so I love Stephen King, so I have to give it to Mancrush. Anthrax fucking rules.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't argue with that. That's just an absolutely fantastic album. But you know what that means, Mancrush? Me and you move on to the wild card round for a one-on-one showdown to see who wins this battle.
All right.
All right. So I will go first since you just went. My wild card pick is another movie. And I was going to pick this one as my original movies pick. I just didn't have the stomach in it for me to rewatch it again. And you'll know why as soon as I tell you what this is. In the Courier Journal out of Louisville, Kentucky, July 21st, 1977, we're going to go to a review by Scott Hammond. It says, The Hills Have Eyes is a grotesque bloodbath. The Hills Have Eyes is the title of a particularly grotesque horror film that arrived yesterday at no less than 9 indoor and outdoor screens. Perhaps it's an attempt to compensate for the quantity that we see for the quantity in terms, perhaps it is an attempt to compensate in quantity for what the film lacks in quality. In any case, the movie has more bloodshed than most people will ever want to witness. Most of the scenes consist of careful depictions of open wounds. There are shootings at point-blank range, stabbings, even attempts at cannibalism, and even a few severe dog bites. Apparently, the producers of The Hills Have Eyes pride themselves on being kind to animals while wallowing and glorifying in human suffering. If their intent was to make a movie for people with similar feelings, I think they've succeeded. rated R, for relentless bloodshed that makes me even wonder why we can't have a film rated X on the basis of violence. So I give you the most chilling, horrifying film in 1977, Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes. All right, Mancrush, what do you have for the wild card round?
All right. The Hills Have Eyes is a great movie. It is, but
if you can get through it.
October 30th, 1987. An alien parasite with the ability to possess human bodies goes on a violent crime spree in Los Angeles, stealing expensive sports cars and committing dozens of murders and robberies in the process. Kyle MacLachlan, he stars as the FBI agent or alien determined to take down that parasite. I mean, do you guys know what the movie is? Obviously, we're talking about The Hidden here. But the most interesting part of this whole thing, so the LAPD cop, the detective that's helping him in the movie, is Michael Nouri. Michael Nouri was actually offered the role of Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon, and he turned it down to play this role. So if I don't win this round, his career went for naught.
Wow. All right, AJ, I guess that's over to you for your final verdict on this game.
I'm so sorry, Mancrush.
Don't be sorry to me, but Mr. Nouri, he needed it.
Yeah. just as though he lost to Mel Gibson, I gotta give this to Mark.
He didn't even lose to him. They offered it to him, and he was like, "Nah, I'm doing the Hidden."
No, it's probably better. It's probably better because I couldn't imagine it without Mel Gibson. It just doesn't work. Especially that haircut that every single person spawned off of that. Jerry Seinfeld held on to that as long as physically possible.
It was like the blowout mullet, kind of.
Oh, it was
like the action
back.
Mullet. Yeah.
No one could pull it off better than Mel Gibson. And,
Gibson's didn't even look like. Swayze too. Their mullets didn't look like whack mullets. They looked like action mullets.
Because those guys were gods in the 80s.
And then you had guys like Howie Mandel who kind of had that semi-curl mullet.
Mm-hmm.
That was bizarre.
Yeah. But in all honesty, The Hills Have Eyes fucking wins that one because it's just even I'm a massive fan of the remake. I love the original Wes Craven one. Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot of merchandise upstairs from the original one. But hands down, that was one of the best grotesque remakes ever. Next to the Evil Dead remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
was hard. As soon as he said The Hills Have Eyes, I was like,
yeah. It was.
I was like, should I change my pick to Lost Boys?
Yeah, see, I was going to pick it in the movies round, but then I saw Kingdom of the Spiders, and I just adore that movie just because of the ending. Again, not going to spoil it. Go check it out. Really cool film. But yeah, Hills Have Eyes is just a tough watch. I just didn't have it in my guts to sit through all the rape and dismemberment yet again.
Oh, it's rough. It's a fucking rough time, man. You need a few days to yourself after watching it. That's what makes it so fantastic. Either one, it doesn't matter.
Shower afterwards.
Yeah.
Here you go, Mark.
Oh, there we go.
The sequel is terrible, though.
Awful. Absolutely
so
awful.
Yeah. So bad.
Either sequel.
Yeah, either one. I mean, they're both terrible.
Both.
So I lost. Whatever. We'll move on.
I'm sorry, man. You cannot compete with The Hills.
No, I could. No, there's certain ones when people throw them out, you're just like, fuck.
If you're playing Pogs, that's the slammer.
Yeah,
done.
Fucking.
What
am I gonna bring to the
Michael
table?
Berryman slammer.
Yeah. The only thing that might save it is Last House on the Left, but even then, no. Maybe Cannibal Holocaust, but no.
Oh man, that's come up before. Beaches. Yeah. That's pretty
Beaches. Did you say Beaches?
Beaches.
It is a scary movie.
That's a dark one.
It is.
Dude, tell us about Werewolves. Tell us about the music. I listened to a bunch of your shit after Steph sent it to me. I love it. A lot of your covers are fucking badass.
Fantastic.
But your original stuff, like Wasteland,
Yeah.
just the beginning, dude. That dude shreds. Like, it's great.
Oh yeah,
talk
my
about your
guitar
music.
player Jeremy is
Oh,
just an awesome
amazing.
dude. Like one of these times you got to have both of us on here because that kid is a like laugh riot. Like he makes me seem yeah, he's awesome. No, Wasteland if you've seen the video, right?
Yeah, insane. Who did
So
all
like
that's what we were talking about. Like your production quality and your marketing for all your shit is crazy. So good.
thank you.
Who's doing all this stuff? Are you doing all this?
One of my best friends, his name is John Volpine, and he has this company called Glass Dagger Film Co. And he's done quite a lot of like videos for other bands and stuff like that. But John and I have always had this like strong bond over just like dark horror, and just kind of like him and I kind of clash when it comes to like, I always want to push a little more comedy into our stuff, and he wants to push more blood and guts, and we kind of end up meeting in this like beautiful like slasher meets comic book kind of like little love triangle. And
Creep Show 2.
Exactly.
Or
So-
Evil Dead 2.
Oh yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Both-
So, and that's the whole thing is like you'll see like as these next few videos roll out, like I'm pretty much taking everything and in a creep style, in a Tales from the Dark Side, in a Twilight Zone kind of anthology of world building within itself. So each music video that's coming out, like Wasteland, you can market so much stuff off of that. Like you can make action figures of the pig killer. You could turn that into a comic book. You can, continue that story if you want to. And so one of the things we came together and started to do was we were just kind of sitting down, thinking about like the kind of stuff that we want to watch, and stuff that would play well against the music, because the music's very like aggressive, in your face, but at the same time, it still has like that pop to it.
Right.
And so we want everything to kind of have like a reflection of that. This new record that we just conceived, it's 10 songs, and the whole album itself is based off of Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is each song itself is its own hellscape. So the album takes you through this journey that sonically keeps changing. So it's nothing like our EP. It's closer to like what our covers are now. And so it kind of, with atmospherics and introductions and outros, it kind of takes you on this little course. So we wanted the music videos on this album to pretty much have their own vibe of that hellscape. So Wasteland is based off of gluttony, the land of shit. That's why it's called Wasteland. And we're paying homage to like Saw, and we're paying homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and House of a Thousand Corpses, and kind of doing like our own thing with this like failed restaurateur pig killer who's hunting these girls to feed to the patrons of his old restaurant. And I don't know, like the next one that's coming out, it's a song called Fall With Me, and it's got like a completely different vibe. It's dropping in June, and Fall With Me is kind of like more of our radio-ish single, I guess you would call it. It's a lot more singing than scream. And excuse me, now Mark, I call what you got.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
It's contagious.
Dude, I was going to ask you that. Like, you talk fine. Your voice doesn't sound raspy or anything. How the fuck do you keep your voice from dying? I talk for an hour and I'm like,
to be honest with you, I used to just blow out my voice left and right, and I had to go and take vocal training. So I took about 2 years worth of vocal training, and now I kind of changed my diet around to kind of adhere to my voice. Like if I know I have a show coming up, I'll like stay away from dairy and stuff like that. And then I warm up about 45 minutes before we even get to practice. So this way, like, I'm nice and loose, only warm liquids for the day. And then I have this portable vocal nebulizer. It pumps like saline solution onto my throat. And what that does is like it hydrates and gets rid of all like the mucus that's on your vocal folds.
Wow.
And from doing that whole routine, like I can sing and scream for like hours. Like you guys haven't even heard shit with Wasteland. Like this album, it's so diverse. There's songs on there that there's literally no screaming. There's acoustic songs where there's literally all singing. Like there's something on this album for everybody, and it's such a wild ride. Like I wish I could just show everybody right now. Like if I could, I would drop the whole album.
Dude, you can like you can right now. I'm gonna like this hasn't been done in like a year, probably since like Wax did it, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you have an acoustic guitar to blast something out?
I wish. No, I don't want to. I haven't warmed up properly. I've been drinking Heineken 00.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
that's not a warm up.
Yeah, it's not a warm up. No cold liquids. Or I would happily break out my acoustic.
Dude, that would have been sick because we've never had like a metal guy do like anything live on the show before. It would have been cool.
Well, I mean, if you get me and my guitar player Jeremy to come back, we'll premiere the acoustic song.
Dude, we totally should do it again.
Fantastic.
But you were talking about your next single and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Continue,
so the next single kind of has like a different vibe to it. It has more of like a dark, eerie, kind of almost like romantic. It's based off of Lust. So in like true fashion, we wrote a song that's literally about like it's just about fucking, but the presentation of the song sounds like creepy love, and it's just such a smooth kind of song that goes into like this just absolute like punchy fucking bridge, punchy fucking outro. And the video itself, we've based it around kind of like almost like a Corpse Bride kind of vibe. So the music video is about this guy whose wife dies, and he becomes depressed and starts getting delusional, and he stops taking his medication, and he starts having all these like crazy thoughts. So he goes and he digs up his dead wife to have one last night on Earth with her, and he's kind of like living in his delusions of reenactments of when she was alive until he takes his own life. And the whole music video takes you through that whole ride.
So is there any continuity between like Wasteland and like this one and the next one? And they're all going to be separate. So
they're all separate. Gotcha. Honestly, on the EP, we tried to do, if you go back and look at our YouTube, there's two videos. One's called Torn to Shreds, and the other one is called Just Calm Down. And so Torn to Shreds and Just Calm Down were supposed to be like this 3-part story. So basically this guy gets attacked by a werewolf. He turns, he kills his girlfriend. And then he goes and he murders all of his friends. You don't know why yet. And in the third act, what was supposed to happen was it was supposed to connect that he murdered the friends as a ritualistic sacrifice to bring her back from the dead and lift his curse, but we never got a chance to film the third video. So it just ends on a to be continued. And I'm so fucking pissed about it. Someday I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna finish it for just fuck's sake. And I don't care about continuity because I literally lost like 50, 60 pounds since the band first started to now.
Damn.
So like my weight fluctuates throughout this video, and the first video, Torn to Shreds, we shot it a year apart. Like parts of it are shot a year apart.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then
that's crazy.
We actually shot parts of the first one, Torn to Shreds, and then we shot Just Calm Down like 2 days later. We finished all of Just Calm Down, and then pieces a year later of Torn to Shreds. So it was a clusterfuck. That's why I'm sticking with its own thing, one thing, building this whole thing out.
Gotcha.
An anthology
makes sense now.
of hellscapes.
But I'm glad you guys are doing that because I feel like we talked about this a couple episodes back. I think it was one with Andre. We were talking about, like music videos in the 90s and everything, and they were so epic, and everything was about the music video. And I feel like we got away from that for a long period of time. Now it seems like it's starting to get back together. Like with that whole Weeknd thing that I sent you that video yesterday. Like it seems
Weeknd's
like everyone,
amazing.
yeah, like it seems like everyone's doing like these big things again, like in videos, and they're almost like movies.
Did you see the one that's
awesome.
do you see the one that's like a bank heist?
No, the one I watched last night was it was the one where I have an HD monitor and he has like this prosthetic on his face, and dude, it's grotesque. I was like,
dude, there's one Weeknd video. I can't fucking remember the single to save my life, but there's a video that it's a first person bank heist, and it's the fucking craziest thing. It looks like a first person version of Heat.
That's
like the end of Heat.
I'm not like a huge fan of his, but like some songs, like the newer ones with like that 80s synth sound to it, like I really dig. So I watched that last night on here, and I was like, damn, these videos are pretty fucking awesome. But I'm glad you guys are doing that. You're getting back into it, and like, you know, that whole story thing is coming back. The arc and like the mini movies and things.
Yeah, there's one that we did. There's a third video that we filmed. We filmed all of these videos throughout the pandemic. I don't know how we pulled them off, but we did. And there's this third video that's going to come out around, Stephanie will probably kill me, but it's going to come out around September. It's going to come out a little earlier than it's supposed to drop. And in this video, it's we did a full-on parody of Wolf of Wall Street, but I'm wearing like a demon, like a devil prosthetic on my face. If you go and scroll down on my Instagram, you'll see like stuff from the actual video. And so I'm wearing like a full-on foam prosthetic devil face that kind of makes me look like I'm from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but not a vampire. And we did some of the things shot by shot from Wolf of Wall Street. We got an office building that we brought in like strippers, and nice. You know, we had like dudes at their desk going crazy and fighting each other and throwing money in the air. We had a yacht that we had like some chicks on, and I'm like throwing bottles around and stuff like that. And then we did, our whole intention was to make like a straight up like Mel Brooks style comedy, like parody of Wolf of Wall Street. And we got a private jet, like, and I hustled all of these things. And like, I'm so excited to show people this video. It's for this song called Sell Your Soul. And the video fits the song so well, because the song itself has like kind of like a Limp Bizkit Papa Roach kind of vibe. Yeah. So it's just so hype, and you couldn't do horror to this video. Our John actually pitched me an idea. I had to go to somebody else for this because John's not a big comedy guy. And John pitched me this idea of us doing like the Belko experiment or Mayhem.
Yep.
And I was just like, nah, dude, let's do something a little bit different. Let's not pigeonhole ourselves completely as just like an Ice Nine Kills ripoff horror band.
Right.
Yeah, and
I want to do other stuff.
That's one thing I really liked about your music. Is somebody asked me earlier, well, what do they sound like? Well, it depends on what song, because you guys do so many different things from the metal genre, but each one is kind of its own thing. It's really cool of a melding of the styles.
I like to say that our sound is if modern metalcore did coke in the 80s.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
You put that on the label.
Yeah, right on the label.
In the Studio 54 bathroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Carrot Top.
Yeah. Co-written by the Bee Gees.
Right.
All right, dude. Well, yeah, let's set something up where we get both of you on, and we'll do a regular episode. So I think it'll, there'll be so much more shit to talk about where we're not pigeonholed into just horror, because it seems like you guys know all kinds of shit, and you don't want to just do horror. So we'll do that.
I love horror, don't get me wrong, but I'm also like a big like pop culture person.
Sweet.
Comic books, movies, everything.
Yeah, we'll do that. But before you go, tell everybody where to find everything. Give them your links and all that stuff.
I mean, realistically, if you just went to Linktree, what is it? Linktree.com/werewolves. Everything's in there. I think it's Linktree. No, it's
link.tr.ee/werewolves.
Yeah, /werewolves. Like regular way you spell werewolves.
How the hell did you get that? That's a good one on there.
Dude, we've gotten so lucky. Like our YouTube account is youtube.com/werewolves.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah,
pretty
we
dope.
got fucking like super lucky. I mean, realistically, I'm a big Instagram person. I don't really use Twitter much, and I don't really use like Facebook that often. Like I pretty much just mostly stick to Twitter, to Instagram. So if you just go to Instagram at werewolves_Florida, like there's a link right there in the bio that'll take you to everything, all of our music, all of our videos, all of our social media accounts, just one-stop shop, you know. I mean, Stephanie wants me on TikTok, but I'm too fucking old to get TikTok.
Exactly. That's how I feel about TikTok, bro. It's way below me.
My wife's always trying to like teach me how to do TikToks, and the second I see her start holding things and selecting things, I'm like, I want to jam an action figure into my nose until my brain falls apart.
That would be a TikTok. People would probably watch that.
I'm literally 10 years too old. Like if I was 10 years younger, I'd be all about this shit. I'd be doing a TikTok right now in between you guys going through your little stories. I would have been over here just like all up in that shit.
You ever watch people, like, especially my daughter's 14, and I notice every once in a while, like her and her friends will be like just standing around and they just start doing some fucking weird thing. I'm like, what the there's no music, there's nothing going on. They'll just be like pouring a water and be like,
yeah. And then they later on, whatever trending song, they put that trending song over it, and then they get 14,000 views.
Maybe you should go to TikTok.
Yeah.
Right? Meanwhile, I post don't get me wrong, I posted a couple things on TikTok, but like if you go to our TikTok, it's literally like, oh yeah, that's what I expected. It's the laziest fucking TikTok like on the
just
planet.
Like clips of the videos.
Yeah, it's a sad, desperate old man trying to do TikTok.
Go to my YouTube. Yeah, I hear you. I feel the same way. But dude, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate the loss, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna add you after this.
All right,
Awesome.
sweet, man. Yeah,
Thanks a lot, AJ.
I'm totally down for this Friday the 13th thing.
Fuck yeah.
All right, duelers. Well, I guess we're going to end this episode right here. But don't worry, if you've missed an episode, you can always go to duelingdecades.com and subscribe to it on whatever your favorite platform is. And you can find all of the links right in the episode notes right below. So until next time, duelers, we're going to bid you a peace, love, light, and a joy. Have a grateful week, everyone.